Hey all, Lossien here, and today we're doing a very fast one-day build. In fact, if you have a party in half an hour, you can probably still knock this one out. No sewing involved at all. Are you ready?
Beetlejuice. Yes. Beetlejuice.
Yes! Wow, this is gonna be so good!
Because you're so smart, a stand-up role. I'll think about your offer, let you know, but I prefer my chance.
To make Lydia's poncho, we're going to start with gathering all the materials, and it's not a lot really. Then we're going to cut the design out of our tablecloth. Then we're going to draw on the design. After that, optionally, you can choose to color the edges just to give it a more finished look. And optionally, you can also attach a lining. Super easy.
So what do we need? Because this is going to be a quick costume. We need 4 things, one of which is optional. I got a tablecloth from the dollar store. This one was only $4. Now, technically to get the red, I had to go into the Christmas section, but it's perfect. You want something that's got like a bit of a backing and it has like a bit of heft to it. You don't want anything too light. I also got these Sharpies from the dollar store, big thick boys. They were only $2, I think. And a pair of kitchen scissors. Now, optionally, I also got this hair tie. It's like an off-white and a purple. It's got some dangly bits on it. I'm gonna cut off the dangly bits because her hairpiece is like a very light pink and a light purple, and I figured this was close enough. There is another optional step, we'll see if we get to it, where you're gonna want some spray adhesive, a very thin tablecloth from the dollar store. It's like $1.75. This was a remnant from my disastrous first attempt at this. Okay, so I've got a reference picture. Always good to have. I'm going to open my tablecloth. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to see how long I want the front and back. Now, this is not as long as I would like. Hers is like almost hitting the floor in the front and definitely on the floor in the back. But we're going to work with what we have. So I'm just going to make it slightly longer in the back, which puts my neck about here. And I just put a little mark, and I'm just going to make sure, yeah, that is the long way. Then, using the back corner, because this is going to be cut off, I'm going to put this around my head. This is a weird one, but trust. I'm going to mark where that is. And that, I know that length goes up and down my head, no problem. So let's get to it. So because I have this mark down here, what I'm actually going to do is cut a little strip out. Excellent. And now I'm going to fold this in half, lengthwise. Now I have this little mark that tells me where I want the middle to be. So I'm gonna, oh, it's right on a fold. That makes life easy. Transfer that to this side. So this was the amount that went around my head comfortably. So I'm going to fold that in half. And this is the amount that I want to make a little U shape with. Perfect. And I'm going to cut just outside of that line. Now I'm actually going to take a moment and try this on, make sure it goes on my head. And I'm just going to see how far the sides go while I'm here, because hers go about just past the elbow, which this does. Excellent. Okay, so next, with my reference, I'm going to draw the shape. That seems like really straightforward. It is pretty straightforward though, so alright. I'm gonna draw it on first, and just outside of what I'm gonna cut. There we go. And then I'm gonna cut that out. Now you can take a moment and try this on. That's probably the best way of doing it, but I'm just going for it. And I'm just gonna take these off because I don't want this edge here. And that's just the sound of me trying it on to make sure I like it, and I do. So next, we're going to draw on the shapes with our Sharpie. So now, there's one going straight down the front, and you should probably use a ruler for this. I'm just freehanding it because I want this to look drawn. This is the nerve-wracking part, at least for me. So now the next one is very close here and goes like almost, it goes like right here. It goes almost to the side. About here. And then there's one here-ish. And it goes like behind her arm, but it's a cartoon versus real life. So we're just gonna go kind of straight out. Not the straightest line, but this is a very quick costume. This is probably the quickest of all the ones we're gonna build. Okay, now we're gonna repeat that shape on the back, starting with the straight down. And I like these thicker Sharpies because you can get like a nice wide line in a single pass, because you want it to actually show up. If the line is too thin, it's just gonna fade away. Fade away, fade away, fade away. Perfect. I'm kind of trying to avoid having a line go straight down the side. I don't know, we're gonna try and guess. As you can see, I'm just using my fingers and the folds to figure out kind of where things go. And at a certain point, you just kind of have to make a decision. Now you can do this mathematically, measure it out, figure out where each spoke would go. But because this is based on a cartoon, it's not perfect. So I don't see the point of trying to make the finished product perfect. I want it to look drawn. The other trick with drawing on a tablecloth like this is you want to give it time to dry. If you were to say fold this right now, it would actually get all over itself. So give your marker some time to breathe. So now we just have to draw the connecting lines. Now because mine is shorter than hers, I don't want as many. I just want to give the idea, and she has kind of less as you go down. You know what I am going to do is draw around the neckline, and I do not want to draw on my floor, so I'm just going to put an extra piece of the fabric there. And this is just giving a finished look to the neck. Guess there's nothing to do but connect the lines. So her first one's fairly close. I'm gonna call it here. You can see I'm just kind of using my fingers to figure out how far down I want things and putting a tiny little mark. And what I should have done was made this just a touch lower because this is lower. Live and learn. I think the next one's about here visually. I'm going to cheat these side ones up just a touch because I don't have as much space on the side there. And it's just a general idea, and let's connect those. Okay, it's starting to look like a thing, and the next one's going to go down a little bit more. And as you can see, I like to do it somewhat symmetrically to make sure it looks similar side to side. Okay, now we're getting into the little bits, because these don't actually connect anywhere. It just kind of goes off. And we're going to switch to the back. Here we go. basically at this point, it's that we want it to look like the pattern would continue on. There we go. Now, you could just wear it like this. It's totally up to you. I'm going to take the time and go along the edges on the inside because I don't want that white popping through. So just like we did on the outside, I'm going to draw along the white, just around the neckline, trying to cover all that white, especially on the edge. This is a completely optional step, but because we're wearing black underneath, doing this step actually makes sure that you don't get that weird line of white around the neck. And now what I'm going to do is go along all the edges on the inside only and do the same thing. And I'm going back and forth a few times to get under the flannel backing. And as I move down, I'm actually going to switch to my other piece of extra so that the black can dry on that one. So this is actually bleeding to the other side, but I kind of like the look. So now, that looks pretty great. What I'm gonna do is take this outside and we're gonna use the spray adhesive to put on the purple onto the backing and then trim that.
So all I did for this was I wanted to attach the lining, so I took my spray adhesive and I sprayed it on just a quarter at a time, making sure to really get around the neck hole and around the edges so it was really adhered perfectly on those places. Now I was using a tablecloth that I had already cut a hole in, so I just kind of made sure that the edges were completely covered and at the neck it was underneath, so I wasn't too worried about it. And then what I ended up doing, because I ran out of spray adhesive, is using a contact cement. Then I left it with some rocks on top of it to hold everything flat and left it outside for about 2 or 3 hours because it was a nice day. Reminder to always do things like this outside if you can. Make sure you have good ventilation. You should be wearing a mask. I was not on this because it was quite windy and I couldn't feel any of it. And as you can see, I just really took my time smoothing everything out as nicely as possible.
And our very last step is to trim off the purple. One side done, and the other side done as well. Now I'm also going to take a moment and see if I can press this very gently to get all these creases out. We will see how that goes. So, all in all, I'm really happy with this costume. It was super fast. I had a couple of issues. I tried to iron it starting with the back and it kind of melted a bit. It's not super obvious, but I stopped before I got any further. Of course, because it is a tablecloth, it sits out as opposed to drapes nicely. And I ran out of spray foam or spray adhesive, but you can't really tell. The purple underneath I think ended up being the perfect color. I'm really happy with it. And this is like a super easy, comfortable costume. These are pants I own, boots I own, a shirt I already owned, so yeah, highly recommend this one if you have a last minute convention or a last minute like Halloween party or something. And just as a reminder, this is where you can find me online. I do lots of crazy stuff. Usually involves a lot more sewing, but occasionally it doesn't. And also a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. They really put up with my crazy ideas, and they're getting crazier, as evidenced by the tablecloth I'm wearing. And next week, we're maybe visiting the same character, but doing something a lot more work than drawing on a tablecloth. I think if you were to ask me if I'm ready to do something like that, I would say I do. See you next time. I'll think about your awful and I'll let her know. Welcome to Stephanie Can't Do Lyrics even when she reads them. It melted a bit. I don't know if you can see that, but in person you can.
Yeah, it's fine.
So I'm talking to the camera. I love you. I'm definitely talking to the camera. Cool. Outro done.